Good morning, students. Welcome to online teaching session of Academic World School, Viii-Mathematics. This is our third lecture of class 8 mathematics. Topic is understanding quadrilateral. So in our two of the previous lectures, we had seen the types of polygons and interior angle and exterior angle, and how to find interior and exterior angle. Okay, and then we had seen sum of interior angles and sum of exterior angle of a polygon, and the how to find number of diagonals. So our next topic is quadrilateral and its type and the various properties of the different quadrilateral. So as I have told in the definition of polygon, that quadrilateral is a polygon. Okay, it is a polygon having 4 sides. Okay, a polygon having 4 sides is called quadrilateral, that we have already studied. Now, if we see the quadrilateral, we will come across various types of quadrilateral. Basically, the quadrilaterals are categorized into 3 parts. There are 3 different types of quadrilaterals, you can say. First is the parallelogram, second is the trapezium, and third one is the kite. Parallelogram, trapezium, and then kites. So these are the 3 types of quadrilateral, and further the parallelogram is categorized into 3 different types: rectangle, square, and rhombus. So we will talk about each of the quadrilateral and their property. Okay, so first let's talk about parallelogram. It's the first type of quadrilateral. So parallelogram is, from the definition, a quadrilateral. Okay, a quadrilateral which opposite sides are parallel. Remember that. A quadrilateral which opposite sides are parallel. For example, see this. Here, side AB is parallel to side CD and side AD parallel to BC. AB is parallel to DC, and AD is parallel to BC. Okay. So such quadrilateral is called parallelogram. Right. So there are other properties also, but basic thing in every parallelogram we get is that opposite sides should be parallel. Then see that there are various components of the parallelogram. The first component is the side. Okay. Then next component is the angle, and then the next component is the diagonal. So we will see 3 various properties on the basis of these 3 components. Okay. On the basis of side, or we say that property related to side, property related to angles and property related to diagonals. Okay, property related to diagonals. So these three components are there, and with the help of these three components only we will get different properties. Okay, so let's talk about sides of a parallelogram. Sides. So the property of side is that in parallelogram opposite sides are equal. Okay, in a parallelogram opposite sides are equal. There is a reason behind this, that why the opposite sides are equal in a parallelogram. See that parallelograms, we know that by definition a quadrilateral which opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so what happens, that we'll see in the next property, that is the property of diagonal. Okay, that is that a diagonal divides the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. Two congruent triangle means diagonal divide this parallelogram into two equal triangles, and because of that the opposite sides you will get equal. Because of that, since the diagonal is dividing the parallelogram into two equal parts, two equal triangles, and because of that the sides are equal. Okay, so opposite sides are equal. The next property, opposite angles are equal. Opposite angles are equal, which means this angle is equal to this angle, and this angle is equal to this angle. So opposite angles are equal. The same reason is that, okay, if you take any diagonal, you can divide the parallelogram into two equal triangles. Okay, and we know that if two triangles are equal, which means if two triangles are congruent, their corresponding parts are equal, and because of that reason only the opposite angles are equal in a parallelogram. Okay, let's see, this parallelogram is A, B, C, D. So if we talk about the first property, okay, if we talk about the first property, from the first property AB will be equal to CD and BC will be equal to AD. BC will be equal to AD. And then second property, opposite angles are equal. Okay, so angle A equals to angle C and angle B equals to angle D from this parallelogram, right? Next property is that is related to diagonal. Okay, that is related to diagonal, that diagonals bisect each other. That is, diagonals bisect each other. Okay, diagonals bisect each other. So we know that this is a quadrilateral, so we will have two diagonals. So here, these are the two diagonals, and they bisect each other. Suppose they are intersecting at point O. So here, from this property, OA will be equal to OC, OA will be equal to OC, and OB will be equal to OD. OB will be equal to OD. Okay? So this is what the property says, that diagonals bisect each other. So we have three different properties of parallelograms. Opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal, and diagonals bisect each other. So these are the properties of a parallelogram. Now let's come to the types of parallelogram. Okay, so there are three different types of parallelogram: rectangle, square and rhombus. They are parallelogram because the first reason is that the opposite sides will get parallel. Since they are the parallelogram, all the properties of parallelogram we will see in each of the quadrilateral, or say each of the parallelogram, each of the special type of parallelogram. Okay, rectangle, square and rhombus, they all are the parallelograms, so each of the property of parallelogram also will be implied there. Apart from that, they have some specific property, because of that they have the different names. Rectangle. Okay, rectangle is, from the definition, if you see the definition of rectangle, it says that a parallelogram of which opposite sides are equal and one angle is 90 degree. A parallelogram which opposite sides are equal and one angle is 90 degree. That parallelogram is called rectangle. Okay, a rectangle a parallelogram which opposite sides are equal and one angle is 90 degree. Okay, such parallelogram is called rectangle. Then comes the square, a parallelogram which all sides are equal and each angle is 90 degree. Then comes the rhombus, a parallelogram which all sides are equal. A parallelogram which all sides are equal. There is no property associated with the interior angle. Okay. So rectangle is a parallelogram, all sides, opposite sides are equal and one angle is 90 degree. Square, a parallelogram which all sides are equal and each angle is 90 degree. And a rhombus, a parallelogram which all sides are equal. Okay. So let's talk about the property of each of these parallelograms. Rectangle. Okay. So all the properties of parallelogram we will see in the rectangle, like opposite sides are equal. Okay, opposite angles are equal and diagonals bisect each other. Apart from that, diagonals are perpendicular to each other, which means diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Okay, diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. All the properties of parallelogram. This is the symbol of parallelogram. We write it short. And then diagonals are perpendicular to each other. Okay. So here okay, so opposite sides are equal. opposite angles are equal. Diagonals. Now, diagonals. Yeah. Diagonals bisect each other, and diagonals are equal also. Here diagonals are equal, means all the properties of parallelogram. Okay, and diagonals are equal. Okay.
ठीक है ना, जहां से करा था वहां से रिपीट कर लेंगे.
Okay. So rectangle, as we discussed, so rectangle is a parallelogram which opposite sides are equal. So now let's talk about the property of rectangle. So since it is a parallelogram, so you will see all the properties of parallelogram, which means the opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal, and diagonals bisect each other. Okay, diagonals bisect each other. And apart from that, there are two other things, two other properties we can say. Each angle is 90 degree, and the third property is that their diagonals are equal. Diagonals are equal. Okay. So all the properties of parallelogram plus these two different properties. Each angle is 90 degree and diagonals are equal, which is not in the parallelogram. Okay. So next is the square. Next is the square. So same here, all the properties of parallelogram, all the properties of parallelogram, all the properties of parallelogram, and apart from that, diagonals are equal. Diagonals are equal, and diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Okay, diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. So these are the three different properties of square. Then comes the rhombus. All the properties of parallelogram, and apart from that, you will see that diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Okay. So these are the different parallelograms and their properties. So let's revise it. So parallelogram, there are parallelogram, you know that a quadrilateral which opposite sides are equal. Then their properties, that First property is the related to sides are equal. Second property is related to angles, opposite angles are equal. And the next property is that diagonals bisect each other. Means the diagonals divide each other into equal parts. Then comes the rectangle, square and rhombus. They are the types of parallelogram. Okay. Rectangle is a parallelogram in which opposite sides are equal. So we define the rectangle as a parallelogram which opposite sides are equal and one angle is 90 degree. We define the square that a parallelogram which all sides are equal and each angle is 90 degree. Rhombus we define as a parallelogram which all sides are equal. Then their properties. The properties of rectangle, all the properties of parallelogram means opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal and diagonals bisect each other, and apart from that each angle is 90 degree and diagonals are equal. Okay, then comes the square, all the properties of parallelogram, and apart from that you will see that diagonals are equal. Okay, diagonals are equal and diagonals bisect each other at 90 degree or bisect each other perpendicularly. Then comes the rhombus, that diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Now see that if you have seen in the definition that rhombus is a parallelogram which all sides are equal and a square is also a parallelogram which all sides are equal. So what is the difference here? Difference is that in a rhombus the angle, the measure of angles is different, measure of interior angles is different, but here measure of each interior angle is 90 degree. Remember that. In the case of square, measure of each interior angle is 90 degree. But here in the case of rhombus, measure of each interior angle is different. Okay, so this is all about the today's topic. Okay, the next two parallelograms are quadrilaterals are left, which we will talk in our next lecture. The assignment related to this topic will be uploaded on the ERP. Okay, so kindly download it and do it positively. Thank you.